It is called the silent killer because it is colorless, odorless, tasteless, and non-irritating. Literally, none of those things have to do with noise.
Right. That's why I don't get about the silent killer name. It would be a lot easier if carbon monoxide were colorless, odorless, tasteless,
and non-irritating killer.
Like, you hear that? Is that carbon monoxide? All right, let's go outside. And then even then, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be like, hey, there's carbon monoxide in there. My guitars and shit are in there. Are they going to be okay?
Brunch, hit it, boys.
Oh, boy. What do I have egg on my face.
Why?
I just walked all around the grocery store, freaking out, looking for one product. I was like, I just got this the other day. Where is it? I know you carry this product. I almost did can you go look in the back? I hadn't gotten that product from that grocery store. I got it from a different place. I had gotten it from Target.
That's not a grocery store, I would say.
I know.
It has groceries, but not a grocery store.
That's why I was freaking out. I was like, there's no way. This is where I get my groceries. This is where I got this item. Where else could I have gotten it? They don't have this item at other places. And I was like, ooh.
What's this mystery product?
Oh, you're looking at it, kiddo.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother. You've been all about those this week. Like posting on Instagram, tweeting about it.
Oh, yeah.
Just making sweet, sweet love to the old retro Bud Heavy cans.
I was wondering how long we could go without saying what we're actually talking about, because we inadvertently did go maybe 35 seconds saying like, yeah, that's what you were getting.
I think if we went like another 15 seconds, people would have been like fucking furious, which makes me mad that I've revealed what it was.
Yeah, you shot your wad. These man, I mean, as has been posted on various social media platforms.
No fleets, though. You haven't posted a fleet about them.
Oh, shit. I mean, what happens if you break a blood oath? Do you die?
I think so. I think that's the rules. The other person that you shared blood with gets to kill you.
That is a Blumhouse movie.
Yeah. Blood Oath.
Blood Oath.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Blumhouse is so good at naming the movie what it's about.
They really are. And
Countdown. Panic
so
Room.
Good.
Or
so
Escape
good.
Room.
So good at just like taking an idea of something, just like a very specific, basic thing, and being like, movie, and we're naming it that's very specific, basic thing.
Right. Dangerous Street. It's like, oh, man. Everything on that street is dangerous. Shout out Blumhouse. Shout out Budhouse, though, because that's what I'm in right now. I'm just in a sea of retro. Retro is incorrect because it's not. Budweiser cans never look like this.
You called it a retro can.
I don't know what it's called. I don't think did I call it that?
Yeah, you called it like, I love retro cans, so I love this one. And that's what I thought. That was my thought. I was like, I don't think they had those back in the day.
I don't think I said, let's look.
It's like an ugly sweater Bud Heavy can, basically.
Right. I thought that I said, I love Bud Heavy. Which, I mean, you got to take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I mean, I've had 4 sips of a Bud Heavy out of a potentially retro
Bud
can.
Heavy and nostalgic cans, ? Yup. So, like, nostalgic cans basically means to me like it's a retro can.
Right. I mean, it is nostalgic, though. I mean, it features nostalgic art, but it certainly doesn't. Retro. People don't know what retro means. I learned recently what it means. It means hearkening back to something in the recent past, I think, unless I've gotten this wrong. Right. So like retro means, but recent past can mean whatever you want. Like you can say retro for us, I think, is 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But 60s, that's where you get into vintage territory.
I don't know, like 60s could still be retro because that still could be considered recent history.
Depending on how old you are.
Or just even based on like the history of the earth.
No,
like,
that's true. That's true.
Relative to like the dinosaurs,
I was just
the 1960s are recent history.
I was just about to say, like, if you're talking about like certain dynasties, and then you get into like, and then 1960, like you're talking about the present. You know, You're talking about ages that were thousands of years, hundreds of thousands. How long is the world? 55 years?
Yeah, around there.
Something like that. When you get into the 60s, which definitely wasn't 55 years ago, the 60s, which is definitely less than 55 years ago, if our math is correct.
A few Olympic cycles.
Right. The 60s.
The 60s went away for a few Olympic cycles. Now they're coming back.
Man, 60s, I follow multiple Mad Men meme accounts. I'm so weird with what I follow. I try to not get into like which accounts certain people follow and who gives a shit if somebody follows a bajillion Twitter accounts or a bajillion Instagram accounts. But I follow a lot of meme accounts, which I didn't think would be part of my life. But Instagram, I follow a lot of meme accounts. Shane got me into one that I saw you reshare after I shared, which is Camp Good Boy.
Yeah, I still don't know what that is, but I only saw the one meme, and I was like, that is a fantastic meme.
He posted one. Yeah. He posted one, and I was all about it. And he was like, hey, just a heads up. If you're into that one, just follow that dang account. It's all... I guess I was going to say
it's not even popular. It has like 700 followers. That's why I thought you like knew that person.
You just assume that it's Miles.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
My friend Miles is like a more functioning Kramer.
Yeah.
It's just capable.
He's like an artistic Kramer.
Right. He's just like capable of kind of pulling anything off. So I think it actually would stand to reason that any like indie thing I'm into is just Miles. But there's an account I love called Band Memes, and that is super popular. That's just a bunch of memes about people like sucking a guitar, and it's just like so right up my alley. Like I would be into it, Matt would be into it. I feel like good musicians actually wouldn't like it, but shitty musicians who have the mindset of I'm just going to throw money at this problem instead of actually getting good at these instruments. I'm just going to buy more of them. It's that type of account. And that blew my mind because I was like, this is a Twitter or this is an Instagram account that posts all these like funny, relatable things that like you'll see and you'll be like, oh my God, I totally get that. And then I realized that's just what memes are.
Yep.
So when I saw Camp Good Boy, I was like, this is like band memes, except it's not about music.
It's just memes.
It's memes, yeah. So I guess that's the description of Camp Good Boy.
Yeah, but you didn't describe the actual meme that I shared. It was very funny.
Oh, it was great. It was my mom. When are you gonna have some? When are you gonna give me some grandchildren? Me, and then it was what's that show called?
Pawn Stars.
Pawn Stars. The guy saying, "Best I can do is podcast," which I assume people who follow meme accounts, I don't know, 80% have a podcast.
I would assume so. Yeah.
So that was borderline pandering. Let's read some recent Camp Good Boy memes. Boy, they owe us for this one. How many followers they have? They have 15.8 followers. 15.8 thousand followers. I do that in my sleep.
Really? That's way more than they had like a few weeks ago when we shared.
That's because we share, right? That's because like it gets the Shane share, that gets it into our world. It gets the Deed share doesn't mean anything. I don't know what your Twitter follow or your Instagram following is like. But it got some. I think like we got different eyes on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this account was like under 1,000 followers when I shared this.
We were when it's Instagram Wrapped at the end of the year, we're going to get an alert that's like you were in on the ground floor of Camp Good Boy. Let's read some. Okay, so this says, "This is who comes down the chimney." Oh, good meme. Are you seeing this?
No.
The most recent Camp Good Boy. It says, "This is who comes down the chimney when you leave out pieces of shit instead of milk and cookies." And it's Shooter McGavin doing the shooter when he's got both thumbs pointing at himself because he famously suggested
shit for breakfast.
that he eats pieces of shit for breakfast. Let's do another random one. Let's just scroll through. Let's find one. This one is not funny. I'm going to skip that one. This one has, you won't get this. It's Beth Harmon playing Guess Who. You know what Guess Who is.
I sure do, and I know.
But you'll be damned. You'll be damned if you fucking know who Beth Harmon is.
I do know now because enough people won't shut the fuck up about it that I know who that is.
Oh, dude, I've so experienced that. That's. I was gonna say that's how I am with Star Wars, but I legitimately do not know things about Star Wars. But it is so weird. We've definitely talked about this 100 times. The phenomenon of when you are out on something, it's not part of your life, but it's such a big part of everybody else's life that like. You know the quotes from it, and you even know like the dynamic between certain characters. Like I am at people text in right now. If you don't watch a teacher, you probably understand a teacher so well. That's not true. You probably don't understand it well because of us. We exclusively talk about like
I would like to imagine storyline. I like to imagine that anybody who like listens to this podcast and talks about a teacher, or like listens to this podcast and doesn't watch a teacher, is like, oh yeah, that show about the guy's band.
I think people are invested in it. I'm wrong again. I was going to say I feel like people are invested in a teacher even if they don't watch it because of us, but the bare minimum of being invested in something, especially if it's a consumable product, would be consuming it. You just popped on a Texas hat. Speaking of a teacher, does that mean it's teacher time?
Yeah, basically. I should do that. It's time to put on my teacher hat.
That's like your cue. Like, stop fucking talking about the memes. I'm okay. Are you seeing it? The hat is on. Teacher time.
What actually just happened was that I remember that we're getting into the video game. We're getting back to the video game, and my hair looks like absolute dog shit right now. So I just had a hat right behind me, and I was like, I'll pop this baby on. Just in case we do a video from this episode.
Oh, I'm so stupid. I thought you were saying like we're about to play a video game. I was like, you surprise me all the time. I'd love to play a video game. How do I turn on these controllers? Yeah, we do want to get back into the video game. It'd be silly of us not to, and we were pretty confident our shows have been good of late, so we want to share that with y'all. It is kind of. I was gonna just explain that like doing things takes work and time. I'm gonna say like it does like take work to put together a video, but we're figuring it out. I was glad that we did a video version of
Folkmost.
The Folkmost. That episode, man, is this our first episode since that episode? Sure is. That was such a fucking fun time, man.
Always is when you bring in fights. Talking
with Feidelberg is never a disappointment. I would never say it to his face, but
I'll tell you, I've been like fully in on Ivy over the past like week or so.
Oh, cool.
It's like the only song that I care about on that album at this point.
I was going to say, is that the one that's Closure? Because if it isn't, get the fuck out of my face. Locked in. I know I've really locked in on, and by this I mean I don't think I've even listened to these songs once since we talked about it, but Closure and 'Tis the Damn Season. 'Tis the Damn Season is really the one I have stuck in my head the most, or like hum around the home front. But
I would say that those two are probably like my 1 and 1, 2 at this point.
Yeah, Dorothea, I think I'll put on playlists for a while, which is I think that's just if I'm being consistent, a good sign of whether or not I like a Taylor Swift song, because I was adamant with Folklore that we weren't going to be playing that album in a week, 2, 3, 4. And
have you changed your tune on that or no?
No, I don't listen to that album.
I still listen to it quite a bit. But you think you like have to concede that other people are listening to that album still? Sure.
I knew that it was kind of a losing battle because even it's all relative. Like I don't know what her streams were for past albums in certain time frames, but no matter what happened, Folklore could have been the most offensive, horrible thing in the world. And 1 week later, you'd be like, okay, 6 billion streams for each song. And you have no way of telling, like, did people like it? Are they still listening to it? It's Taylor Swift.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, I'm still going to stand where I am, but I think that folk, God damn it, you like totally like muddled my brain.
I breathed my half a beer into the microphone.
No, you've muddled the album names in my head by screwing them up. So
definitely,
purposely,
definitely.
I was just about to call it Folkmost or Folkmore. No, I think that Evermore is. I still think that it's worse, but it's better than I first gave it credit for, I think.
Cool. Did you, speaking of Taylor Swift, did you see Jack Antonoff's epic tweet the other day?
No. Oh, God.
It was, this should be on a meme page. We should make a meme page that's just screenshots of Jack Antonoff tweets. And all of them would just be like, this weekend we're going to live. It's always stupid stuff like that. Love you, Jack. Should have just kept doing fun. But his tweet was, John Lennon was 40 years old when he died. I gave that a quote tweet with, did
you know that Jack Antonoff...
John Lennon was 40 years old when he died?
Did you know that Jack Antonoff only produced one song on Evermore?
I did notice he was a bit more removed on this one, and it was Gold Rush, correct?
It was Champagne Problems.
Oh, wow. So I wanted to say this, and I bit my tongue on it.
I think.
Okay.
No. William Bowery wrote, had a writing credit on Champagne Problems. Jack Antonoff.
Oh, that's because it sounded like it was written by a second grader.
Yes.
William Bowery, we now know, is in second grade. This is real IRL, a teacher.
It's I think you're right. I think Antonoff did Gold Rush.
So I bit my tongue on this. A lot of, and by a lot, it means maybe like 2 or 3 people, Feidelberg included, had a very overwhelmed by the Antonoff reaction to Gold Rush. And I don't know if maybe I'm becoming desensitized to Jack Antonoff, but that song did not strike me as particularly
me either
Antonoff-y. But I was like, I've heard multiple people say this now, so I think it's I feel like it had this is a thing that I'm just not experiencing.
I feel like it had the opposite effect because that song kicked in and I was like, ooh, this is neat and different, and I feel like I haven't really heard this before. Whereas like everything else that Antonoff does, I'm like, oh, fucking Antonoff, yeah,
right, just fucking stacked 10 NPCs on top of each other and then lit a match. There's just a bunch of snare sounds like sparking as electronics break, and it's just like that's my loving impression of Jack Antonoff. Did you do the fun challenge, by the way?
I did one song.
Okay, well, I mean, you at least got started. So I offered this challenge to people. If you're allowed to do it in your state, you can do it with pot or a drink or something. Put on Aim and Ignite by Fun. Listen to, say, the first 3 songs, and just kind of think about, just ask yourself, what would the world be like if this was still happening? Because Jack Antonoff would have been doing this, would have had less time, if maybe no time at all, to do Taylor Swift stuff. Taylor Swift's music would probably be different. He got involved with Taylor Swift around the time that she was working heavily with Max Martin and Shellback. So, Pete, I think that probably would have been a win for you. You'd have more 1989 Red type stuff. And meanwhile, Nate
would be crushing it. People would still care about Nate.
Oh, yeah, Nate. Yo, what's up? Do you know what's up with Nate? That's what I'm
saying. Nate had like nothing. Nothing that I know of. He did that Eminem song.
That's right. Headlights. How did that song go? I just remember
How does that guy like have the best voice in the world?
There's got to be a JC Chazé thing in there. And I say JC Chazé with this. I have this assumption that JC Chazé must be a bad dude, which is a terrible assumption for me to make about somebody. But I can't figure out why JC Chazé wasn't a star after NSYNC.
I can tell you.
Why?
I can tell you. It's because immediately after NSYNC ended, JC Chazé was like,
he got weird.
Songs about fucking. I'm gonna make songs about weird sex. And like he was trying to break away from the NSYNC mold so hard that it was so uncomfortable. Like it had such a rapid pace, and everybody was like, ew, no, go away.
Pete, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I found nothing uncomfortable about the lyrics. She was blow me up with her love. Do you remember that? Because it was like she was like disco lights on a Friday night, and then it was she was this, she was that, and then eventually he was like, you know what? Fuck words. Let's do some really. Moan would be wrong. A lot like gruntier, and I think that like of the sex sounds,
verbal thrusts,
right? Like like of the sex sounds to insert into songs, I think like a lot have been. I don't know. I think like moans have historically been the safe play that everyone's kind of accepted. Like, okay, you want to throw moans into song, whatever. A grunt in a song is tough, I think.
Yeah, it's not pleasing for the ears.
Maybe a reason, right? You're not gonna like.
But I can't imagine
a grunt.
I can't imagine Nate. How do you say his last name?
Roos.
Roos. Can't imagine Nate Roos being like, all right, fun's over. I'm going to make songs about fucking.
Super unique voice. Great front man. Seemed, again, I project so much with musicians. I don't know why I do this, but he seemed like uppity, but in like the way you want your front man to be uppity.
You know what I would say about Nate Roos? Royce? Nate Royce? You know how in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, the Paul Rudd's character says, hey, Peter, there's some pain behind those eyes. I would say that there's some pain behind Nate's voice.
Yo, for real. And behind those eyes. He's got the eyes. Shout out John Mulaney. Prayers up. Wishing the best for him. Nate Roos has the eyes that John Mulaney talks about himself having in Newentown, where he says he looks like... what did he say? He looks like somebody aged a photo of a younger version of himself.
Yeah.
He always had like, let me pull this up. I could be making this up.
Wow. No, Nate, you're correct.
Does he have like tired eyes?
Oh yeah. 100%.
Well, doesn't he say
looks a lot worse than I remember him looking.
He says in Why Am I the One? Is it Why Am I the One? Where he says, and I just want to get some sleep. Maybe, oh my God, there's this. I'm looking at some rough pictures, but I'm looking at great pictures too.
Right. So that's the thing. Like he is very hot or cold.
Right. I was going to say he has an incredible smile that I didn't remember him having.
He looks really rough in certain pictures and then like really great in others.
But to your point, what a voice. I mean, his voice was like, I always considered his voice to be like, I know nothing about guns, but don't they say shotguns have a big spread?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So like you shoot, Bill Burr says this in a bit where someone's trying to sell him a gun, where he says like, you just shoot like anywhere in the vicinity of this thing and it's going to take care of it. That's what Nate Roos is like. He's got this like incredible, crazy range. I don't know if he has the best control over his voice. So he just kind of fucking lets it fly. Right. Yeah. I mean, right. What matters is that he's up there. And that he's going with full force. You're not going to find me saying many bad things about Fun, other than that I think that they're stupid for having stopped. I think that it was stupid for Nate Roos to do a solo album that early. I think that I can't call Jack Antonoff dumb for wanting to do what he's doing. I mean, he is.
Yeah, but he's
getting the most out of.
It's weird that they did this thing and like everybody loved it and it was a commercial success, and then they were just like, nah.
Totally. So the first album, Aim and Ignite, is this like really cool. I hate to use this term because people just use it whenever it's anything clever, but this like Baroque sound, and it was just a great pop album and indie darlings. And the second album, they're like, okay, we're giving you Jeff Basker, who is as hot got. He was coming off of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. He was working with Beyonce. They made We Are Young, and that ended up being like the model for pop music for the next like 3 or 4 years. Matchbox 20 was trying to make songs that sounded like that. Like this sound of no cymbals, which sounds really stupid, but like there was a time period because of fun, where pop music was just like a lot of like like that kind of stuff instead of working in cymbals and hi-hats and everything. And you don't notice it unless you look for it, but like listen to music from around then and you'll find that like that was just like the sound. There's a section in a Matchbox 20 song called She's So Mean. It wasn't produced by any of those guys, but it was so clear that they were like, this is just what music probably sounds like right now. So point being, first album, Indie Darlings. Second album, I don't know, We Are Young had to have won like Grammys, I think.
Yeah, it had to have.
That
song was a smash.
Right. That was an inescapable song. In commercials, huge. And
that other one too.
I was going to say, let me run down the Some Nights track list.
Some Nights itself was a fucking absolute smash as well.
Right. So Some Nights has Some Nights intro, which is a very epic song. Some Nights, smash it. We Are Young, like global mega forever smash hit. Carry On, smash
Carry
it.
On, yeah.
It's
Get one foot in front of the other. Is that in?
I love that song. That song actually, I think, is the only song on the album to feature cymbals. But It Gets Better was a really bad song, but I think it had a good message. Why Am I the One? I don't know if that was a single, but that's a great song. Employs a tempo change, which I'm a big fan of. Do you know the song All Alone?
No.
By Fun? Mm-hmm. Oh my God. That song is so freaking cool. It is. You hear it and you're like, this sounds like the guy who produces Kanye made a song with the band that the Fun Guys. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like all the people who made the song worked together.
It's crazy.
It sounded like a collaborative effort between multiple musicians. Do
you know go ahead. Do you know
One Foot is a great song.
Yeah. Do you know who Nate is married to?
He was. I know that he had a relationship with Rachel Antonoff.
No. But a famous sibling as well, Charlotte Ronson.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. A little update. We Are Young won the Grammy Award for Song of the Year. It received 4 other Grammy nominations, 2 for We Are Young and 2 for the album itself. I mean, I cannot stress enough that Fun put out 2 great albums. And I think that people kind of wanted to knock Fun after, like a little after We Are Young came out. People quickly latched on to, all right, like these guys are, I don't know, who's like these guys are like Fall Out Boy or something, like this really popular rock band that we're just that if you're cool, you can't be in on. And I pushed so hard against that.
You know what? Well, you know what? They kind of got like Imagine Dragons, where like they got so overexposed and they were in every commercial.
Great call.
And that like people were just kind of got sick of them and overexposed to them.
But it's wrong. I mean,
they put out good music.
Right. It's not my fucking problem that they got a bunch of sync requests and they like money, so they just took them all. So every time you watch TV, you heard We Are Young 1,000 times. Those guys put out 2 great albums. So again, I don't know why I mentioned if you want to have a drink or whatever during it, but do the Fun Challenge. Just put on these are the rules of the Fun Challenge. It's simply listen to Aim and Ignite and let me know. Think about it. Would the world maybe be a better place knowing that they went from that to Some Nights, which was a great album, massive success. Don't you want to hear maybe a 3rd, 4th album by those guys? The other possibility, though, and it's silly to not consider this, maybe those guys just didn't like each other.
Yeah, I would have.
But even so, like, tough it out, dude.
Like they weren't together long enough to be like, okay, I fucking had it with you guys. Although I've spent like 30 minutes with Jack Antonoff via the Taylor Swift studio sessions, and I had enough of that guy. I watched him play music for like 20 minutes and I was very uncomfortable. And I was like, oh, this guy gives me the creeps.
I've been on a David Foster kick of late. You know who David Foster is?
Yes.
I love him because I find him kind of, and this is maybe the case with a lot of producers. Like I find him comically self-important. Like he wants you to know that he's David fucking Foster and he made those hits. Okay, so like if he wants you to know, like, hey, if I ever go missing, check the top of the charts.
Is David Foster the guy that we had the conversation with? What's his name about?
Paul Samuel Dolman.
Paul Samuel Dolman.
Interned? Did he intern for?
Yes.
David Foster.
Yeah. And he was like, he like idolized him, and then he met him at the studio.
Yeah, and he had. And
he called him for some reason.
Yeah, what a cool little anecdote. I remember he said he went and visited him in the studio. Because David Foster was like, hey, if you ever need anything, here's my number or whatever. Yeah. So he took him up on it, and then. I love retelling stories that you may misremember because I am going to lean so hard into every detail of this, embellish the shit of it. So like, I don't know, like 15 years have gone by. They had met before David Foster had even picked up an instrument. They were childhood friends.
That is not true.
Paul used to beat up David. And years later, David said it was like a Kingsman type of thing. He was like, hey, if you're ever in any trouble, this is the number to call. So years later, Paul calls it, winds up visiting David Foster at this fancy schmancy studio. Turns out David started playing the piano and David was good. Started working with some real stars making hits. So this will be the only part of the story that's actually true, if I remember correctly. Then Paul says to David, hey, so what are you working on? And he said, I'm doing some stuff right now with Shaka Khan, Peter Cetera, Whitney Houston. Probably this had to have been post. Actually, I don't know. No, this would have been pre I Will Always Love You. But anyway, he said, I'm just working with Shaka Khan, Peter Cetera, Earth, Wind, and Fire, whoever he was working with at the time. And then Paul says, as only Paul could. Do you remember what he said?
No.
He said, wow, anyone I might have heard of? And David said, if you ever fucking talk to me like that again. And they have never spoken.
Yeah. Listen, I was playing nice, pal, but who the fuck are you?
They then beat the shit out of each other.
And Paul Samuel Dolman was never heard from again.
Then Paul Samuel Dolman wrote an expose about David Foster entitled Hitchhiking with Larry David. The truth about David Foster.
Hitchhiking with Larry David. How Larry David buried David Foster's body on Martha's Vineyard.
Hitchhiking with Larry David. How Larry how
No, Hitchhiking with Larry David. I didn't kill David Foster, but if I did, here's how I would have done it.
Hitchhiking with Larry David. The truth behind who wrote those songs. In parentheses, look, I know the title's suggesting maybe it might have been Larry David. You're going to have to read. That'd be, if there was a book that lightly suggested that Larry David had an involvement with the hits of the 80s and like early 90s, I'd be, even if I'm like, there's no chance Larry David, like it just didn't match up time-wise, Larry David can't have a musical bone in his body, I'd read that book.
I'd read like basically any book attached to Larry David's slight involvement. I mean, I did. It was called Hitchhiking with Larry David.
That's right. That was a selling point. Right.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. I'd love that book. We should get Paul back on. We should have Paul back on to just be like, hey, we're a little rusty on your David Foster story. Could you please tell us that story? Maybe like you can't just go back and listen to that episode. Like, I don't think it made the edit. You ran a little long.
We should be like, we have more questions of an interview that probably happened, 10 months ago at this point. Okay, we had some more questions.
Pandemic. It was right before the pandemic. We were very hot on Martha's Vineyard. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but there was a period where we were extremely hot on.
Still are. It's to the back burner.
That's true. I mean, Vineyard Nights gave it a kind of second life, maybe, but we didn't. I feel like nobody actually cared about Vineyard Nights. No, that's true. But nobody actually cared about
like the Vineyard connection.
Right, exactly. The Vineyard connection. It was, I was texting with Gary Streisky about this the other day because he let me know that Vineyard Nights made his Spotify Wrapped, which I thought was...
That's very cool.
Very cool. That's great. Yo, I mean, everybody was nice when Vineyard Nights happened, but there were a select few who legitimately I had the impression that like they really fucking liked it. Gary Streisky was on that short list, which was very cool. But we were talking.
Put it in the SportsCenter Snapchat.
That's right. Yeah,
that's incredible.
Gary Streisky's on one right now too. I do not have Snapchat. Don't know what Snapchat is. But I'm glad that Gary posts a lot of his stuff on Instagram because he's the best. We were actually talking about hair products and shit like that. He's so good. The
least surprising thing of all time.
Oh yeah, we didn't overlap well enough with his time in Boston, but I guarantee you, if he was here long term, Gary Streisky and I would have been thick as thieves.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, he would be a good brunch guest for like a sequel on how to keep a home.
Oh yeah. Well, because he keeps like 14 homes. He keeps
like 9 homes.
That guy keeps homes.
And he must not have hobbies. Like he must not watch a ton of TV or like play video games because every time I go to
productive, man.
Yeah, every time I go to Gary Streisky's Instagram story, he is undertaking a massive home improvement project
by himself.
That like he's teaching himself shit. He's like buying all the supplies. He is literally like a one-man band of learning how to do a home improvement projects, and that shit must be exhausting.
Oh yeah, he is really the exception of, I don't know, I like learning things, but I like learning things in the, hey, I want to make this thing on Photoshop, so in making this thing on Photoshop, I'm going to pick up a couple of Photoshop skills. That's my idea of like picking up skills.
And like the way that I do it is I'll look up a 3-minute YouTube video and I'll fast forward through it.
You watch 15 seconds total.
Yes.
That's the rest. It'll take way longer.
You're right. Yeah. And if I don't find anything in those 15 seconds, then I give up on learning that thing. Gary Streisky is out here learning like every step of putting like a backyard patio together.
And I think our parents and their parents, you just learned how to do that stuff. Maybe it wasn't your biggest. And I remember thinking as a kid, I was like, you know what? My dad's really handy, and he really seems to like doing that. Which now I'd have to talk to him about it. Like, no offense, but I don't know. Maybe when you get older and you have kids and you have a job and you have a million things, like maybe doing something that isn't the stuff you're always doing just feels healthy.
Fun, yeah.
Like makes your it's probably good for the mind, the soul, and everything. So I can see why parents and people who have a lot of responsibilities might like to mow the lawn or do any of these things. But I remember thinking as a kid, I was like, yeah, like I definitely know I'm just like a generally different cat, but like I don't see myself getting older and wanting to know how to put things together and take them apart and everything. I had my smoke detectors / carbon monoxide things were going fucking bonkers the other day, and they just wouldn't stop. And the only way to make them stop was to go Phoebe. And shout out Phoebe Bridgers' popularity, that when I just said Phoebe, I felt I should clarify Phoebe Buffay, because Phoebe Bridgers might have surpassed Phoebe Buffay in the Phoebe popularity rankings.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think like Phoebe Buffay was like the only famous Phoebe for a while, other than Phoebe the Vampire Slayer.
That's right. And then Phoebe Brodgers came around, and hold on, our mics are fucked up. And then Phoebe Brodgers came out and made all of her lovely songs. My point was, I don't know how. Oh, the only way I could make it stop was just unplug everything, get it all out of there. And then it was like 3 hours later that I was like, I'm not smelling smoke. But does it is carbon monoxide must be odorless, or
it's literally called the silent killer.
Right. So that's how out on the carbon monoxide game I was. I was like, so this actually does matter. Like, I can't just continue to live my life without these things, because maybe it's the silent killer. So I looked up, like. Also,
I don't know if that makes sense.
I don't know. What do you mean? Like, it wasn't going to be noisy.
Is it called? Yeah, is it called the silent killer?
I mean, I think it's undetectable to the naked eye, nose, ears.
I said that
whatever.
So confidently, but I don't think it's true. The more I think about it, it doesn't really make sense for it to be called the silent killer.
Toby calls Toby, when he's got the radon test kits, he's calling them silent killers. I don't know what he's talking about there, but that's my point. I feel like generations past fucking know what to do in that case and know how to go about it. I had to Google, like, what happens, how to tell if maybe you're getting some carbon monoxide poisoning. And it was like, do you feel bad? And I was like, what kind of fucking question is that?
What is this, WebMD? You have cancer.
Right. I was like, I'm getting nowhere with this. So
it is called the silent killer because it is colorless, odorless, tasteless, and non-irritating. Literally, none of those things have to do with noise.
Right. That's why I don't get about the silent killer name.
Yeah.
It would be a lot easier.
The invisible killer.
Right. It would be a lot easier if carbon monoxide were colorless, odorless, tasteless,
and non-irritating killer.
Like, you hear that? Is that carbon monoxide? All right, let's go outside. And then, even then, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd just be like, hey, there's carbon monoxide in there. My guitars and shit are in there. Are they going to be okay? That's so sad. So that's like classic band memes. First thing I think. I got carbon monoxide in the home.
Do you think carbon monoxide is struggling with the pandemic, with how many people are wearing masks?
Oh, I don't know. People make up stuff about, maybe they're not making it up, but people go on about, you're not supposed to wear a mask because then you breathe your own carbon. Like, I think people say, like, you breathe your own carbon monoxide. I'm like, I don't think humans create carbon monoxide. I don't think so.
No, it's a silent killer.
I mean,
you never know when it's going to show up.
Not to be too dark, but like Midsommar, right?
Oh yeah, that was big time carbon monoxide movie.
Right. She used a car there.
Yep.
It wasn't like, you don't like rub your hands together and
no, you don't conjure carbon monoxide.
Right. Although honestly,
you can't buy it in a store.
In that movie, you never know. Which will finally bring us to teacher talk, because heavy Midsommar vibes in this one.
Oh yeah, the woman that they meet in the bar in this episode of A Teacher may as well have just won the May Queen competition.
Yeah, they're wearing flowery crowns. And were you distracted when they kept taking shots?
No. Why?
I was quite worried for Eric.
Oh, that he was going to be drugged?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of, I mean, that'd be cool. It'd be a cool twist to the teacher universe to have like all like those visual effects after Eric gets fucked up on whatever potion they give him.
Yeah. What restraint on our part that we've yet to talk about. Not restraint, just I guess typical sloppiness is a better word. That we have not talked about the biggest development in our world I don't know, maybe of 2020?
In the world in 2020.
We wondered last week, are we done seeing Matt? You brought it up. I was upset that you brought it up because I knew it was real. And I didn't want it. It seemed like one of those things that once you acknowledge it, you've already lost. You know?
It's like a shutout.
It's like if a relationship where you're like, hey, is this... does this just not work? Like the second you're asking that question, you know the answer. Mm-hmm. So when you're saying, are we maybe not going to see Matt anymore? You're basically just writing Matt off the show. Not only did this episode have Matt, but the most excited I've ever been, Claire asked Matt how he was doing, which if we know Matt, guarantees he is about to say something about his band.
Oh,
we got a band update. They are recording an album. He didn't say if they were signed or anything. I think he's like, this sounded quite Vineyard Nights, to be honest. He was like no one's asking for it. We're just kind of doing it.
Yeah, well, he literally his only, like, you know how when Michael Jordan returned to the floor, he released that statement and it just said, "I'm back."
I'm back, yeah.
Well, like Matt released a statement on behalf of his band. Do they have a name? We don't know if they have a name yet, do they?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
If they were to have a name, it would have been revealed in that episode that I'm not going back to watch because it gave me the biggest hives of all time.
Never again. Yeah. I don't think they do have a...
I don't think they have a name yet, but if he was to release a statement on behalf of his nameless band, it would have just said, recording an album. Because that was literally the 3 words I put on the subtitles because I wanted to screenshot that. And it was just recording an album. It wasn't the band is recording an album. It was just recording. He could be recording a solo album.
That's true. Recording an album. So why do I see like a darkish picture with Times New Roman font. It says recording an album. That's like I don't know if this is like a documentary I'm envisioning or something. We were texting about it when we learned that the album was coming. Like, drop the studio footage, King. Give us something.
Get him a Disney Plus deal.
Gets right. Give me some sort of teaser. I need something. But I don't know. There's now an outside chance that we will hear Matt's band music. Like, what if at the end of the final episode, which we have one episode left, there's a song playing in the end, and you're like, oh, I haven't heard this song before. Most of the songs in this has, I think they spent a decent amount on the soundtrack in this show because
they just gave a ton of money to LCD.
right. They gave a lot of money to LCD Sound System. They broke off some for Rostam. They've generally, they were not thrifty. We'll say like they spent on this show. So what if in the final episode there's a song playing? And you're like, what? I haven't heard the song before. I'm going to have to look it up later. It's got kind of like a Wilco-ish sound to it. And then it ends. They cut to it's them. It's the band playing the song. And that's the end of it. And we finally got to see the band. And then like at the end where it normally says like, if this show just fucking ruined your year, like, we're so sorry. Here are the numbers to call and everything. Like, this is a very serious thing. They obviously show that, but then also it's like, you wanted it,
Matt's
you
album.
got it. We gave you the band. Tomorrow's Bandcamp Friday. Tomorrow's Bandcamp Friday. They're doctors, but if you want to make it so, all the proceeds go right to them. So, I mean, great news there. And I'm pretty positive Matt's band doesn't have a name because we were talking about making T-shirts that just say Matt's band.
Yeah.
Which that's one where I'm like, I don't care about the listeners. That one's we're making that one so I can buy it.
That's for me.
Right.
This one's for me. What if he said
the way we do merch
now.
is like 5 for us, 1 for you.
Yeah.
This is one of the for us.
He's dating now. He said he's like, I'm doing a lot of dating.
Did he?
What if it? Yeah.
I legitimately passed out once he said
he was like, I think he said recording an album, doing a lot of dating. The happiest that I could be, I guess. So what if his band name was Dr. Raw Dog.
What if? Okay, we don't need that.
I'm just trying to spitball Dr. Blank Dog. It's the only thing that I can get out of my head.
This was, you noted, very good, a lot going on episode of A Teacher. We were both alarmed by one thing early on, which is a recurring theme on this show. This show is obviously and hopefully a very strong deterrent to never take part in a relationship like that. Because in addition to the moral consequences and psychological damage, apparently every sexual partner you have for the rest of your life is going to bring it up during sex.
Yeah, just like out of nowhere.
It happened again.
It was.
Does it happen to Eric?
First time was with Eric.
Yep.
Which that one is pretty believable because it was just like a college girl,
right? Like they're dumb kids,
right? And then she like later apologized. This one, like, it's Claire on a date, who seemingly with like a very nice, gentlemanly guy, who brings her back to his apartment, and they're having sex, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he makes it seem like I very clearly know who you are. It's like you're the teacher slut.
Yeah, he was like, I couldn't believe it when I looked you up. Oh my God, you disgust me. You had sex with that boy, and I'm like,
it's like if that
as he's having sex with her
turns you on,
right?
Like that might make him more fucked up than her.
Oh, I mean,
he's like using it for sexual gratification,
right? He was definitely getting off on that. On the fact that she had that relationship, and
very weird.
I mean,
very uncomfortable.
But she's in such a self-loathing place where she's like, right. She's like, tell me how bad I am. And there's another scene later where she goes back and she like it's this show needed involved. This show needed extra warnings. I mean. Thankfully, this show begins and ends with warnings.
I did notice when I watched this one that it gave the old violence tag, and I was like, wonder what happens. Like I figure like maybe Eric gets his ass kicked or something,
right?
And nope.
Oh,
just Claire getting slapped around. Just a very uncomfortable episode. But I would say like outside of that first scene, where that happens out of nowhere, this one wasn't the typical like A Teacher brand of uncomfortableness.
Right.
It was like a very good, enjoyable episode where like I think the stories move on and like you said, a lot's happening. But I think that like this was probably the best episode of the series so far.
Yeah, and it's definitely more of a peek into how each of them tick, because obviously they did that and they're dealing with the consequences, but like how they tick now that they have a little distance from it is, I mean, like you learn a lot about Claire, and obviously she hates herself. That's very apparent, but she hates her father and she's staying with him and trying to reconcile. And I like, this is a really challenging thing for the show to have tackled, but I think very realistic. Her father is an addict. Her father is an alcoholic who,
a recovering addict,
yeah. Right, who was not a good father. Was obviously drinking throughout her childhood. She had a horrible childhood because of him. Has since gotten on the straight and narrow and has been helping people and is seen by a lot of people in this second life of his as being a really, really like heroic, helpful guy. Like so many people are thankful for all that he's done for them, but she doesn't buy it and she still hates him for that. And
not only does she hate him, but she's a colossal asshole.
She's such an ass. She's horrible to him, but
he's like the one person in her life that is nice to her at this point in time. And like, obviously he's fucked up in his past, but like she cannot let it go. Which is wild because like she's clearly fucked up in her life and like trying to get back on track. So for her to be an asshole to the one person who's actually being nice to her is incredibly difficult to watch.
But I think that they show something that's real. I think that probably even well-intentioned people, and obviously Claire is a more difficult character to nail down. Like, is she a well-intentioned character at this point? Is she well-intentioned here or here? Obviously, she's, for lack of a better term, a disaster throughout the whole show. But I think well-intentioned people, like people who want people to get better and want people to move on with their lives, if they were hurt by a person who has gotten better, they still probably have a tough time reconciling the things that they did, you know, like I people who had those bad experiences are going to still carry those experiences. So even if,
yeah, I guess that's true. Like that's the association that that person will have with the person.
So like for us, we're watching the show and like, we're happy for this guy and we can clearly see that this is a really good dude, but those bad experiences are going to be with Claire forever. And unfortunately, him getting better doesn't solve her childhood.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's a bad guy or anything, but I'm saying that, like, I think that's probably realistic. I don't personally have experience with that, but I could certainly see how people who were hurt
but like
by,
at the same time, when he's the only person who's like actively trying to help you and get you back on your feet.
Oh yeah.
Like, fuck you. It's just like such an asshole.
Yeah. The show just illustrates that Claire could not be more lost.
Yeah.
Which is nuts, because I think that she thought that she was super lost in the beginning of the show, and like that she had to do something to not be in this life that she didn't want, and just ended up going so freaking far off the deep end. But I agree with you. Very good episode. There's one left, and hopefully lots of Matt songs.
Give us the band.
Give us just the like, I don't even know the other guys' names. Like, what is that? Like, does Matt sing? Do you think Matt sings?
I would imagine so. Like, he has frontman energy.
He's got some stuff to write about.
That's very true.
There's some pain behind those eyes.
Some pain behind those strings.
Right. Yeah, pain behind those strings. I like that. We also promised the conclusion of Happiest SZN season.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so did I. Kind of. Finally watched it, finished it. Good movie. Let me see. Do I even have notes about this? Where did we leave off? We left off that she had joined the family. She, being Kristen Stewart, joined the family of Mackenzie Davis. I'm so freaking bad with names. And that family sucks, and they're the worst. And Mackenzie Davis's family is trying to force her prom date on her, right? They're trying to make her get back together with her prom date.
Either a prom date or like her high school boyfriend or something. Right. One of those.
Who is it?
It was definitely a boyfriend, because he's like, why did you end things with me?
Oh, that's right. And Mackenzie Davis is kind of like going along with it, maybe to appease her parents and maybe to placate her parents, but also like,
she also takes it too far herself.
Yeah, like, your girlfriend is here the whole time, you idiot. Like, Mackenzie Davis is kind of being an asshole in this movie.
Yeah, there was like one scene where she didn't spend the entire day with Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. She doesn't spend the entire day with her. And then like, she's like, oh, come meet me at this bar. And then Kristen Stewart's like, all right, I just want to go home. She's like, I want to stay out a few more hours. Like, well, you guys haven't been together the entire day. And now she's going home alone and you're hanging out with your ex-boyfriend.
Right. So
clearly fucked up.
You had told me to watch out for Aubrey Plaza's character.
Mm-hmm.
And agree. You said she was a great character. It was refreshing to see a different role out of Aubrey Plaza. Aubrey Plaza plays Mackenzie Davis's best friend, slash maybe initial love interest growing up. Is that
definitely initial love interest? They make that very clear.
So she's around a lot because they're family friends. So she just hangs out with Kristen Stewart the whole time. So
yeah, and it was like by the end of that movie, I was shipping Kristen Stewart and Aubrey Plaza.
Yes,
yes. But like at the same time, I know like I was expecting it to happen, but at the same time, like I wish that they ended up together, but I'm glad they didn't, because there's always like that weirdness to being like especially in movies where like if the character's gay, they have to be attracted to the other gay character.
Oh, right,
you know what I'm
right.
saying? Like there's plenty of reason why like they could just be like platonically friends.
Right, and they genuinely seems to be like they weren't they weren't throwing much, like there wasn't Pele, what's her name? Why am I so fucking bad with names? What happened to me, man? Carbon monoxide. Midsommar.
I'm so removed, that I don't remember her name.
Yo, this is incredible. Midsommar has
time has passed us by.
All right, let's see. It has Mark is played by Will Poulter.
Yep.
Christian is played by, I don't remember the actor from Jack something. Jack Rayner plays Christian. Yeah. May Queen in Midsommar. Oh, listeners are going crazy right now. Midsommar main character is...
Oh, damn. Damn. Okay. I looked it up.
Okay, I'm gonna really think on this one. She's from Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Midsommar.
Is this gonna help you?
May Queen.
Colorado.
Yeah. Well, what do they call people there? She's May Queen. She's Jack Rayner. He plays Beth in Little Women.
Dating Zach Braff.
He plays John Dorian in Scrubs. I feel like the Shins are usually in the mix when he's around.
1-800-CALL-TER.
Great number. Pickles back. Pickles. No, pickle back. Pickle, is that it? Do you remember that part?
No.
When Carla returns from maternity leave. Oh, that's it. When Carla returns from maternity leave, it's like the whole hospital. JD's like, okay, now everybody. And they go, it's 3 groups of people. They go, back, pickle, back. And Turk's like, what the hell was that? JD was like, oh, it was supposed to be welcome back, pickle. And he was like, why pickle? And JD's like, listen, David Foster, you son of a bitch. No, JD's like, because if you call Carla Pickle, then I can call your baby the little gherkin. I need this. Jesus. That show is fucking awesome.
That'd be a great place to end.
Yeah. That was the conclusion of our happiest season. Yes.